like I got a taste of what it felt like to feel better. So then I became obsessed, but it wasn't as good as I wanted to feel, and it didn't last forever. So I work with a lot of clients who are struggling with health issues like their entire life. And maybe if not for their entire life, majority of their life. And when you've been battling health issues for such an extended period of time, you become extremely frustrated. Some people kind of accept their fate, we could say, but most individuals want to feel better. They want to live their highest quality of life, and their health complications are severely hindering them. So you reach this point where you become desperate because you have been reaching out to all these sources in attempt to make yourself feel better. And what I mean by that is you go see doctors, you go see specialists, you start going into things that you thought may have been, weird before. You go see Chinese medicine people, naturopaths, you start going to see Reiki stuff, healers, whatever, right? You can try 100 different things, and ultimately in the end, you still don't feel that great. Something may have helped you a little bit, but then you kind of relapse and don't feel good again. That's usually the case. That's what happened with me. I was born with health issues. I was in and out of the hospital as a child, and throughout my teens, I had lots of health issues. And then going into being an adult, I suffered from sleep apnea, prediabetes, just weight gain, all sorts of issues where I was always unhealthy. I was always moody, obviously not sleeping well, just mood disorders, you name it. And it greatly, greatly hindered my quality of life. And it was extremely frustrating. And when I started getting into what I do now, I got a taste of what it felt like to feel better. So then I became obsessed, but it wasn't as good as I wanted to feel, and it didn't last forever. So you either you continuously try what you had done before, and you don't get the same response. And that could be due to several reasons. One of them being adaptation. The way your body is designed, it just adapts what you've thrown at it before, especially when we're talking things like weight loss. So you try that doesn't work, and then you try another thing, and that may work for a little bit, or it doesn't work at all, and then you just keep trying different things. You keep getting different opinions. You keep asking questions. You're not getting the right answers. Myself, you become heavily addicted to supplementation in hopes that this supplement's going to do that, and you read about it, and theoretically it means this, and theoretically it does that, and you may take it and oh, sweet, I feel better. Okay, this is the answer, right on. And then next thing you know, nope, I'm right back to square one. Not sleeping again, or the sleep never improved in the first place, or whatever it may be. So out of this desperation, you are reaching to as many things as possible. Think of your healing journey as you need to build a puzzle. And instead of building a puzzle out of one box, you're trying to build it out of several different boxes. They're not the same puzzles. They just don't work, right? And the reality is when you go and you see specialists or people that are specialized in specific areas, they're only a small portion, or we'll say a different portion of the puzzle. They're not the entire puzzle, right? This is where the new age stuff is coming up with functional medicine or what we will call hybrid coaching. Is that coach's job, which is myself, is in charge of helping you build that whole puzzle, right? I wouldn't take on a specific client if I did not have that ability to build that whole puzzle, or the ability to understand that, okay, referring someone out, for example, if we needed testing, or if it was something because I'm online, I'm not a physiotherapist, I'm not a massage therapist, chiropractor, referring out to those as part of building that puzzle. But when you have these clients, myself included, that are so desperate to just feeling better, they're trying to grab out of as many boxes as possible, and they end up making this ridiculous looking puzzle. It just doesn't work that way, right? And now ultimately, there are probably some coaches out there that just don't understand, right? And now hopefully they take the responsibility and swallow their pride and admit that, because, there are times when it's okay, well, I need to learn this. But I take the necessary means, like I do a lot of mentoring. I invest in a lot of courses. It's what I'm constantly doing, right? Like that's what my life is, because I want the ability to help people build this entire puzzle together, without having to, find 100 different resources to try to make things better. So there's that aspect out of desperation, but that desperation also creates that lack of patience, right? And things take time. So like if you've been dealing with health issues for 15 years, you're not going to solve it in a week. You're not going to solve it in a month. You're not going to solve it in a year sometimes. Sometimes it could take 2 years depending on the individual. Some people, let's average it out at 6 months, okay? You have a gut issue, overgrowth of bacteria that you've been dealing with for years. Probably going to take you 6 months to kill that off. And then you're going to have to repair, but you can be living a quality life during the repair phase. So the phase that makes you feel bad, but you are getting things done, is only going to be 6 months. And that to some people is like, that's a long freaking time, but no, it's not. Like I'm almost 33 years old now. What is 6 months? Taking 6 months of my life is going to add 6 years to my life. I got lots of time left, right? Because we're stuck in this instant gratification society where we all just want that immediate result, that immediate pleasure. And the reality is sometimes, yes, you can bring those things, you talk about people with mood disorders, you could use psychedelics, whatever, but once again, it's short-lived and it's not the answer. So there's work that has to be put in, and there's a time frame that has to be committed to. And when you've only put in like a month or 2 or even 3 months, and you're still in that desperation feeling and you start trying to reach into those other boxes, it create, like for myself, speaking from a coach, it's actually really difficult to work with individuals like that, because then you have so many things coming from different areas. It's kind of like your brain is almost scrambled. And then it's like, okay, well, what's doing what? And you had this thought process designed from day one, and now that's kind of being skewed, which can be fine, right? For me as a coach, I do struggle with those clients, and in no way am I, shape or form am I faulting those clients, because as someone who has dealt with chronic health issues, I know exactly what that feels like, to just try to find like the answer, not answers. You are trying to find the answer. We want to hear that, oh, hey, this is what's wrong with you, so here's what you need to do, right? But the reality is, we'll take my example, sleep apnea, trouble burning fat, thyroid issues, overgrowth of bacteria, SIBO, hormonal issues, like the list kind of goes on. High levels of mycotoxins, high levels of chemicals and metals, just toxic riddled, right? There's no one answer to target all of these things. There are multiple, questions that need to be asked and addressed. There's going to be multiple answers. Now, the irony of that is, okay, well, like, should I be going to multiple sources? Well, no, like I said, when you find someone that you can put your trust in and you work together and you pick out of one box to build that puzzle, but you put that time in and you have the patience and you understand that, look, this is not going to be an overnight process. That's when you really begin to see the results. And like my previous coach and my mentor, Blake, can attest to how I acted. I was the same way. Like every day I'd blow up his phone. Hey, let's try this. Let's try that. And I would take things into my own hands because I'm like, oh, well, I'm a coach. I have this knowledge. And I would really push my system. And then I would just end up back at square one because like my immune system and such couldn't handle it. And just the overall recovery wasn't there. And so then he would have to keep picking up my scraps and keep fixing everything. And like, I'm sure it frustrated the hell out of him. He's very, very good at not expressing that frustration, but I know it's there. Right. And so I greatly appreciate that man for that, because he himself had been through a lot and does go through a lot. So he understands. And that also what helps make a good coach is the fact that you have been through something similar to what the person you are coaching. And so it wasn't until that I finally listened to exactly what Blake had to say was when I finally got what I like to think are drastic results, because it took me 20 something years of my life to get those results, because that's how long I was dealing with these health issues. So then putting in that work for, I believe it was like 6 to 8 months, I finally saw the results. But then I stopped listening and I had a gut relapse, all because I stopped listening and didn't do right. I started going to different avenues. I started I wanted to build muscle and I wanted to eat more food. And that ultimately, no, I wouldn't say square one, but it put me down, it set me back quite a bit. Where if I just listened to Blake from the beginning, I wouldn't have to redo the gut protocol and that kind of stuff, right? But that was out of desperation too. I was desperate because I had lost so much weight. I didn't want to be skinny. So I was desperate to gain a bunch of size. So I went out and I ate a bunch of food and did a bunch of workouts and I pushed past the threshold and I didn't repair things as they should have been, leaving this suitable environment for things to relapse, right? All out of desperation. And so it just boils down to time and patience again, because as mentioned, if you've been suffering with chronic health issues, yes, that sucks. I definitely understand what it's like to be experiencing a less than quality life due to your health issues for extended periods of time. But putting that desperation aside, taking a deep breath, understanding that, look, there is an answer to this, there is a solution, holding on to that and putting the work forward and only picking from one box to build your puzzle. With that consistency, you are going to heal. And with that healing, you are going to live your highest quality of life. And you're going to look back and you'll be like, oh man, I should have just done this sooner, or I should have committed sooner, or something like that. Sure, you can do a bunch of testing and find things out, but when you work with experienced enough individuals, and yeah, I am going to say that I'm experienced, but there's still so much more to learn. But I'm at a point now when an individual comes to me, it's I can look at body composition photos, I can have them fill out an HAQ, and we have a consultation, and it's yep, you have this exact issue that is going on, or you have a gut issue, so let's run a GI map and see where you're at. Once you do something like that, okay, we know where the microbiome is at. If there's still something going on and us addressing that is not getting the best results, then it's okay, we can guarantee, because the test says this, that means all those years that you were suffering with this chronic health issue, this is what also happened to the body. So now we need to focus on this avenue as well, right? But you have to do things in steps, so they take time, right? You can't throw a kitchen sink protocol and just hope for the best, right? Taking things in steps, working on things one by one, you will eventually heal and you will eventually be able to live your best life. And I can say that confidently because that is me, and that is many of the clients that I have worked with. Many of the people that I work with or have worked with have come to me saying, I've tried everything and nothing has worked. I don't know what to do anymore. And the next thing you know, we have, managed or even reversed an autoimmune disease. If you catch it early enough, right? People have been told they only have so long to live, and they're living longer, significantly longer than their life expectancy. People were told they can't have children, and now they have children, right? They were told that they would never overcome this. I was told I would never beat sleep apnea. It will be with me for the rest of my entire life. I no longer have sleep apnea unless, anybody's prone to it if you get really unhealthy. But when you're taking care of yourself, I no longer have sleep apnea. So there's always an answer. Doesn't matter if there's a genetic situation or whatever. You take care of that environment, you put the time and work in, and you build your puzzle from one box. You will eventually heal, and you will overcome those lifelong health complications to live your best life.